The shocking truth about Ruth, how her devastating journey changed the Bible forever. The world of faith trembled as the story of Ruth unraveled, a tale soaked in mystery, heartache, and an unwavering quest for belonging. It wasn't just an ancient narrative, it was a saga that whispered secrets of love, betrayal, and a divine design that defied the bounds of time. Ruth stood at the crossroads of destiny. A Moabite woman, an outsider in a foreign land, she was charged with the weight of the world on her slender shoulders. When everything turned against her, she made a fateful decision that would ripple through the ages. Her journey was nothing short of a divine scandal. Picture it, a desolate landscape, barren with the echoes of laughter from a happier past. Ruth clutched a weathered cloak around her shoulders, worn and tattered like her hopes. Each step crunched on the dry earth, a reminder of the people she had lost, the family she could no longer turn to. Rumors whispered through the cracked streets of Bethlehem, scuttling like frightened mice. "Who does she think she is?" they would murmur, their eyes darting away, afraid of her gaze. Her heart sank, and deep inside doubts clawed at her resolve. But still, she pressed on. Yet, it was not just despair that hung in the air. Could it be that Ruth possessed an unearthly spark? Some spoke of her uncanny intuition, the way she seemed to read the hearts of those around her. Was it mere coincidence, or was there something more? With each challenging moment, the feeling of anticipation twisted in the air. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Ruth's paths crossed with Boaz, a figure cloaked in charm and mystery. Every glance sent shivers down her spine, mixed with a flicker of hope. But what was this strange pull? The locals held their breath. Was he a blessing or merely another storm soon to be unleashed? Her heart raced, thoughts twisted, and the stakes escalated. Ruth's resolve would soon be tested in ways she never imagined. Would she stand tall and fight for her place in this new world, or would she fall victim to the shadows surrounding her? The truth of Ruth's narrative was yet to be unveiled, and the final act awaited, weaving a legacy that could change everything. Ruth's heart was in overdrive as she locked eyes with Boaz. A familiar warmth filled her, but beneath it lay a thick layer of doubt. What if he was just like the others? Ruth took a breath, trying to steady her racing thoughts, but the air felt charged, every moment stretching into an eternity. Boaz stood tall, a man marked by dignity and strength. The whispers of the townsfolk danced around them, but he seemed indifferent to their judgments. His gaze held hers firmly, searching for something deeper, as if he could peel back her layers and uncover the stories hidden within. "You cling to your mother-in-law with courage," he finally said, his voice low and compelling. "That speaks of a heart unlike any I have known." His words hung heavy with promise, igniting a spark of hope in Ruth. But could she trust it? The world around her was fraught with dangers she had yet to grasp, and her heart quivered in apprehension. As their conversation flowed, Ruth found herself opening up, revealing the raw edges of her past. "I have lost everything," she admitted, her voice shaking. "But I won't let it destroy me." Each confession was like shedding an old skin, revealing her determination to find her place. Boaz nodded, his expression unreadable, but something shifted in his gaze. He stepped closer, and Ruth felt a thrill course through her veins. Just as she was about to meet his touch, a loud voice sliced through the moment. "What is this?" A man scowled from the crowd, jealousy jeweled in his eyes. "A Moabite among us? You're courting disaster, Boaz." Eyes widened, gasps swept through the onlookers. Ruth felt the weight of their scorn crashing down on her like a wave, choking her spirit. She caught sight of the scornful faces, twisted in a mixture of fear and disdain. "What do you think you're doing?" he continued, venom lacing his words. "You have a legacy to uphold, not drag into the filth. Boaz's expression hardened, but he didn't back down. Do I ask permission to show kindness? She is the kindling of hope in our land. Yet doubt clawed at Ruth's mind. Was she truly worthy of his protection? Did love and kindness really exist in this world so rife with judgment? In an instant, she was pulled into the fray, her very existence questioned, her heart under siege. Look at her! The voice continued to pierce through the murmurs. She is nothing but a curse. At that moment, a fire ignited within Ruth. The very air buzzed with electricity. They may have tried to crush her, but deep down, she felt a flicker of defiance. I might be a Moabite, she whispered fiercely, but I have the heart of a warrior. The crowd fell silent, stunned by her unexpected outburst. Ruth's heart raced not just from fear, but from the unwavering conviction blooming inside her. Suddenly, she was just as determined to fight against the tide of rejection. Boaz stepped forward, his protective stance a silent signal to the crowd that their words held no weight over the truth of Ruth's character. Hold your tongues, he commanded, and the atmosphere grew thick with tension. But even in that moment of strength, Ruth felt a new fear rise in her throat. If this was her chance to carve out a space in Bethlehem's unforgiving heart, would she truly have the power to change its very fabric? The clock ticked down to an imminent confrontation. What would happen next? In the depths of her mind, the whispers grew louder. Could she face her fiercest enemy, her own past, and emerge unscathed? Or would her newfound courage be crushed by the very chains she fought against? Ruth stood at the edge of an unseen battle, and the choice was hers to make. Would she rise, or would she fall? The next move was crucial. The question hung in the cool air, thick with the promise of what lay ahead. The tension in the air was palpable, wrapping around Ruth like a tightening noose. As she faced the crowd, their sharpened gazes felt like daggers, each one ready to dig deeper into her vulnerabilities. The weight of scrutiny pressed heavily on her chest, making it hard to breathe. But Boaz's presence remained an anchor, his strong stance beside her offering a sliver of reassurance. Suddenly, the venomous voice of her accuser broke the silence once more. You think you're a warrior, Moabite? What do you know of battle? You've brought shame upon your mother-in-law and upon yourself. The accusation ricocheted off the walls of her mind, bringing forth memories of her lost life in Moab, days filled with heartache, loss, and despair. Ruth's heart clenched at the thought of her husband, her fallen home, all gone in the blink of an eye. The dreams she had dared to hope for suddenly felt like ashes in her mouth. Wrapping her arms around herself, she tried to find warmth, but it eluded her as the words of the townsfolk echoed in her ears. From the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of a woman in the crowd, an older figure, a matron of the town, whose expression shimmered with a hint of empathy. It was a fleeting connection, but it ignited a fire in Ruth's chest. Maybe not everyone saw her as a curse. Perhaps some were willing to see her humanity, to realize that beneath the Moabite label was a heart aching to belong. Enough! Boaz's commanding voice rose above the murmurs like a lion's roar. This woman stands before you, not as an exile, but as a living testament of resilience. Each of you knows the sting of loss. Do you think I would besmirch my name for the sake of folly? I choose to stand with Ruth because she embodies strength. His declaration rang out, echoing off the walls and crashing over the crowd. Ruth's heart pounded like a war drum, uncertainty warred with hope. Was his unwavering support enough to shield her from the storm brewing around them? The murmurs swirled, a tempest of mixed feelings. Doubt and fear mingled with a sense of curiosity and admiration. Would they turn on Boaz? Could he withstand their hostility? Each breath felt like a countdown, as if the very air held its breath, waiting for an explosion. And just then, the matron stepped forward, breaking the collective daze. Is it not true, Boaz? She called out, her voice steady, slicing through the unease. You hold the power to tip the balance. If you claim her as your own, you'll risk everything. Ruth's pulse quickened at her words. The matron's challenge lingered, pushing her deeper into the fray. The crowd's silent deliberation was deafening, every eye seemed glued to Boaz. What would he say? Would he break, or would he stand firm, Ruth's heart felt like it would burst from her chest. She desperately wanted to shout her truth, to declare her worth, but the panic clawing its way up her throat stifled her voice. Fear is a tricky opponent. It whispers lies, freezing even the bravest of hearts. She could almost hear it now. You don't belong here. You don't deserve this. With everything on the line, she reached deep within herself, channeling all her anguish, all her strength. As she opened her mouth, ready to speak, a deep rumble of thunder echoed in the distance, warning them all of the storm on the horizon. What was she willing to risk for acceptance? Would she lose Boaz's support for the truth she desperately needed to share? And what would it mean if she stood alone, facing that storm? The questions hovered above her like dark clouds, promising rain, desperation, and a reckoning. Ruth's eyes locked on Boaz's, searching for an answer she feared wouldn't he come in time. Boaz locked eyes with Ruth, a flicker of understanding passing between them. She was trembling, caught in the grip of terror and uncertainty. Her heart beat wildly, every thump echoing in her ears, drowning out the murmurs swirling like leaves caught in a gust. He could see she was fighting a battle within, one that threatened to become a war. Ruth, he breathed, just loud enough for her to hear above the whispers. His voice was steady, a lifeline she desperately needed, but the storm was coming. Shadows danced on the crowd as the wind picked up, rustling through the town square. The matron's challenge hung heavy, veils of doubt fluttering around them. The people looked like a waiting storm, ready to unleash their endless judgments. Ruth, Boaz said again, this time more forcefully, tell them your truth. His words stoked a flicker of courage within her, igniting a spark that fought against the heaviness of dread. Ruth swallowed hard, her throat tight with fear. The moment crackled with intensity. I came to this land not out of choice, but out of necessity, she said, her voice trembling but rising. I lost everything in Moab. All I had was my mother-in-law, Naomi. I chose to stay with her, to care for her. That was my battle. I fought to survive through grief. The crowd silenced, the weight of her confession drawing them in. A few faces softened, while others remained hardened, flames of skepticism flickering in their eyes. Ruth was hurting, and it showed, yet she pressed on. I do not seek honor or riches. I only seek to find my place among you. I want to love and to work hard. I want to honor Naomi. I carry my grief with me every day. Her voice cracked, and she caught a glimpse of the matron again, who nodded, encouraging her to continue. What I am is a widow, a foreigner, yes, but I am also a woman willing to fight with my hands in the fields and my heart in the home. Will you judge me for that? Whispers erupted, and Ruth's words sent ripples through the gathering. Some leaned closer, others crossed their arms tighter, gauging her daring. She caught the eye of the matron again, who raised an eyebrow, almost impressed. But the venomous accuser was not yet satisfied, grinning like a predator. You think your pain earns you a place here? A heart that grieves? It is a religion that proves worth, Moabite. You deny its laws enough. Boaz cut him off, his patience wearing thin. Do you speak of laws over love? Do you learn not from your own fallen lives? She shows more strength than you've ever known. His voice rose in a fervor, compelling yet dangerous, as the thunder above them rumbled ominously. The dark clouds loomed ever closer, the air thick with anticipation and fear. As Ruth watched Boaz challenge the divisions surrounding them, her heart fluttered with a mixture of hope and despair. What if his courage was not enough? Setting her jaw, she took a step forward, her voice steadying as she faced the crowd. You may see a Moabite, a stranger. But I am more than that. I am Ruth. And on this day, I rise to be counted. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, and the wind howled in response, as if the world itself was reeling from her bold proclamation. Her pulse raced, heart pounding against her ribcage like the thunder above. She could sense change, but the outcome remained uncertain, the stakes higher than she could fathom. What would they say? Would they retreat into their fears or move toward acceptance? The dread in the air thickened, and in that charged moment she knew the outcome hinged not just on her words, but on the choices of the townsfolk they faced. Would they dare to see her truth, or would they close their hearts forever, Just then, the first raindrop fell, a single splash against the earth, heralding the storm, and in that instant of uncertainty, Ruth wondered, would this storm wash away their prejudices, or would it drown her hopes once and for all? The raindrop was just the beginning. One by one, the sky cracked open, unleashing a fury that sent the crowd into chaos. The townspeople shouted as they scrambled for shelter, their faces a blend of fear and confusion. Yet Ruth stood firm, the weight of the storm surrounding her, but she felt something shift within. Boaz stepped closer, shielding her with his sturdy frame. "Don't let them take this moment from you," he whispered urgently. His eyes were fierce, a silent promise that he would stand with her, come what may. Ruth's heart hammered against her ribs, but she felt a fire rising. "I won tea," she asserted, her voice barely audible beneath the howling wind. She could see the doubt in the faces of the crowd as they shifted, torn between their fears and the raw courage emanating from her. "Ruth," a voice called from the back. It was Naomi, soaked but pushing through the chaos. "You are my daughter. You have always known love, let them see it." The words struck a chord like thunder in her chest. Ruth felt a surge of strength. Her mother-in-law's faith was unwavering. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw the matron still watching, arms crossed, but there was a hint of something more in her gaze now, curiosity. "Acceptance?" "Ruth!" Another voice yelled, this time male and deep with disdain. "You dare defy our ways? You risk all your widow's garments, your identity. You would drag us into the abyss with you." She could see the scorn twisting on his lips, but instead of retreating, the words ignited her. "What you call the abyss, I call the path to a new life. My past shaped me, yes. But my future depends on what we choose together." Gasps flew among the onlookers like leaves in the wind. Some stirred forward unsure, but others stepped back, their faces twisted in judgment. The tension rippling through the air felt electric, raw, as drops of rain began drumming heavily on the cobblestones. The matron lifted her chin. "Do you truly believe they will accept a Moabite, Ruth? Cast aside tradition for something new?" Her skepticism hung in the air solid as the dark clouds above. "Tradition can blind us," Ruth shouted, locking eyes with her. "Will we build walls or bridges?" A flicker of realization crossed some faces in the crowd. Conversations whispered, fragmented fears, questions echoed. Could she be right? Was this a moment of reckoning, or a fool's hope? The wind suddenly shifted, and Ruth felt the cold rain taper off, a slight quiet in the chaos. In that breath of silence, she seized the moment with both hands. Life can be heavy with grief, but even in suffering, love can flourish. Let go of your fear. I come to you not to take, but to give my heart. To create a life together. In that charged breath, she saw a flicker of something, a smile, maybe not just from Boaz but the matron too. Yet, spitting rain stirred back the doubts, reinvigorating the dark voice that had challenged her. "Enough of this madness," the accuser barked, his voice like a whip. "To believe a Moabite will change our ways is to court destruction." Determined, Ruth shouted without hesitance. "Better to risk destruction than to live in fear. I may not fit your mold, but I refuse to be invisible." Around her, whispers grew louder. Some began to nod, while others recoiled further into their judgment. Ruth's heart raced. Would this send her to ruin or lead to acceptance? The sky rumbled, too loud, almost in agreement, as if the heavens strained to bear witness to their struggle. And then it happened, a figure stepped forth, breaking through the crowd. Was it a friend? An enemy? Ruth's heart held its breath. What choice lay ahead? Would the storm reveal a path towards unity, or would it trigger an irreversible divide? As the dark figure loomed closer, Ruth braced herself for whatever came next. She had given her all, now fate held the deck. What cards would it play next? The figure drew nearer, piercing through the chaotic backdrop of rain and fear. Ruth squinted, heart racing. As the stranger advanced, she recognized the unmistakable silhouette. It was Eliab, the town's elder, his reputation as a steadfast enforcer of tradition preceding him. The locals parted as he stepped forward, his expression fierce yet solemn, wrapped in a cloak that clung grimly to his frame. Ruth, he began, voice booming over the haunting wind. You push against the tide of generations. You speak of bridges, but know this, your roots do not entwine with ours. We are of one blood, and you are not. Gasps rippled through the crowd, sharp as shards of ice. Some stared at Ruth, bewildered. Others flung disapproving glare after glare at Eliab, torn between their ingrained loyalty to tradition and the flicker of hope Ruth ignited. Do you understand what you risk? Eliab continued, ignoring the murmurs. You talk of love, yet you threaten to drown us in your reckless ambition. This is not just your journey, but ours as well. Ruth felt the weight of his words crushing her spirit, but deep in her chest, a fire stirred. Eliab, she responded, her voice cutting through the storm. I risk nothing more than what has already been lost in the grip of our silence. You speak of blood, yet I offer my heart, something far more precious. Shall we choose to remain bound by fear, or forge a new destiny? A flicker of uncertainty registered in Eliab's eyes. The crowd hesitated, caught in a web of turmoil as lightning split the sky, illuminating the moment. Ruth's breath came faster. The time had come. Are we to let blood determine our worth? She pressed, voice resonating like a war drum. Have we not suffered enough under the chains of separation? If love is a path, then let us walk it together, as one people. The heavy air thickened. A sliver of hope threaded through despair as some townsfolk exchanged glances, murmuring softly. Would they really consider a life together? But not everyone was swayed. Eliab's voice sliced through their budding resolve with a fury that echoed in the storm. You think you can change hearts? He roared. There are ancient laws protecting us from your kind. You don't belong here. Behind him, the matron's arms came down, sympathy giving way to fear. This change you seek, Ruth, she interjected, urgency lacing her tone. It can only lead to ruin. Do you wish to bring these dark clouds upon us? You would ruin everything. Ruth's heart plunged into despair, but she held her ground. If the weight of doubt bore down on her now, she would not bend. I choose love. I choose to believe that acceptance is stronger than fear. In that moment, the wind howled, drowning out screams and creating a deafening roar. Ruth felt threads of connection pulling taut. Would the children of Israel succumb to Eliab's fear, or rally to her call? Suddenly, the skies opened wide, a torrential downpour crashing down, and the crowd remained frozen in the tempest. Then, a loud crack echoed thunder? Or was it the rumble of change? Ruth's heart leaped. She caught sight of faces, those once twisted in doubt now searching. But Eliab took a step closer, a chilling smile creeping onto his lips. Very well, Ruth. If it is unity you desire, then let us see if love can withstand the storm. His words echoed ominously in the tumultuous air. What would that storm reveal? Would it wash away her plea, or expose the buried truth waiting to be uncovered? Ruth braced herself. The storm was rising, and the true battle was about to begin. The rain poured heavier, soaking through their clothes, leaving Ruth shivering. Yet, in the depths of her heart, she felt a spark that refused to die, even as Eliab's ominous presence loomed large. The crowd swayed, uncertainty spreading like wildfire. Some whispered hurriedly, fear pinching their faces. Others held on to Ruth's words, desperate for change. Will we allow this storm to break us apart? Ruth shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. She reached out, hands trembling, pleading. Or will we come together, finding strength in our unity? We were never meant to live this way. Your words are nothing but empty dreams. Eliab shot back, his voice harsh against the howling wind. You challenge forces you cannot comprehend. He gestured dramatically, highlighting the tempest around them. Look at the wrath of nature. It mirrors the disgust that your ideas bring to our lives. Ruth's heart raced, pounding like the rain against the earth beneath her feet. She fought to keep her voice steady. And what do you offer instead? She paused, eyes blazing. Isolation? Fear? A world where love is shackled by blood ties. Is that the legacy you wish to leave? Murmurs rippled through the crowd again as Eliab faltered, his face a mask of rage and confusion. It was brief, But Ruth saw at the flicker of doubt that crossed his features, a crack in the iron wall of tradition he desperately tried to maintain. Suddenly, lightning split the sky, and it felt as though the heavens had opened to bear witness to their struggle. Ruth seized the moment. If nature can change, so can we. Nature doesn't bow to fear, it finds its way forward. We must too. The crowd stirred, whispers growing more fervent. Morality hung in the air like fog, thick and cloying. Some dropped their eyes, fear spreading like mildew. Others leaned closer, caught up in the weight of her plea. Don't slip back into the shadows, Ruth implored. We have been silenced for too long, stifled by ages of hatred and misunderstanding. Love should not be treated like a crime. Together, we could build something beautiful. If we face the storm as one, we can weather any adversity. But Eliab's expression hardened, his resolve re-established like a gnarled tree against the wind. This is no beauty you promise. This is chaos. You think you're a savior? Perhaps you're just a fool. The ruin you face will not only be yours but ours as well. As his words echoed through the air, the ground beneath them began to tremble, as if responding to his anger. Ruth's heart sunk. Was Eliab right? Would love truly bring ruin? Or was there power in their unity that even a tempest could not take? Listen! A voice broke through the din. An old woman had stepped forward, the matron from before. Eyes upturned, she looked at Ruth. We have lost many to fear, but what is love if we let ourselves drown in tradition? Eliab's face twisted with anger. You speak treason. Tradition is what defines us. But the old woman stood firm, unwavering. Tradition is meant to honor the past, not imprison us. If we cannot change, we shall face our ruin willingly, you blind to love. More people nodded, embers of hope igniting in the storm. Ruth's heart soared, just as quickly as it plummeted. Eliab's fury reached a new peak. You've all lost your senses. He raised his arms, and the crowd grew quiet, the rain beating against them now as a steady drumroll. Fine. If you wish to embrace this foolishness, let it be known that I will not let it stand. The storm has only just begun. The air crackled with electricity, the tension palpable. As dark shadows clashed with emerging light, Ruth realized she stood at the brink of something monumental. The storm might not just weather their unity, it could expose the very essence of their selves. And in that moment, she understood. This fight would uncover truths they had all hidden away, buried deep beneath layers of tradition. But as the clouds churned above and thunder roared, she knew one thing remained certain: change was coming. And not all secrets would remain buried in the storm. The question is, would they be strong enough to face what was revealed? As the storm raged on, Ruth felt every gust of wind slice through her resolve like a knife. She could sense the crowd's shifting loyalty, their hearts hanging in the balance. It was now or never. You fear what you cannot control, Ruth cried, pushing against Eliab's fierce glare. But fear has held us captive for far too long. Look around you. We're stronger than this storm. Together, we can defy it. Eliab's lips curled into a sneer. You think you can speak strength into empty hearts? These people have turned to me for years. I am their anchor, and you are nothing but a storm chaser, leading them straight to their demise. Ruth's voice trembled but remained unyielding. Is being an anchor what anchors us to a past filled with pain and division? Shouts of agreement erupted from sections of the crowd, but others still looked fearful, eyes darting away from Eliab's wrath to the chaotic downpour. With the thunder constantly booming above, the ground shook violently beneath them. From the edge of the crowd, a figure emerged, drenched, his clothes tattered. It was David, a man known for his defiance. He stepped toward Eliab, boldly raising a hand. Enough. We cannot continue to live in the shadow of fear. You're calling it tradition, Eliab, but all it really is a shackle. Gasps rippled through the assembly. Ruth's heart raced at the sight of David's courage. If he could speak out, so could others. Ruth took a step forward, echoing, yes. Today we can support one another. We can create a legacy built on kindness, not contempt. Eliab stormed toward David, fists clenched and eyes flashing like the storm itself. "You speak treason against your kin. You would tear apart the fabric of what holds us together." "Only if that fabric is woven from lies," David retorted. "You call for loyalty to broken traditions, but you offer no place for love, for understanding. Those we lost haunt us because we allowed fear to dictate our lives. We gotta rise and fight for something real." The old woman added her voice, trembling but firm. "They lived in chains for too long. The true path of life is paved with love. If we can embrace it, what do we have left?" Eliab's face was a tapestry of rage and disbelief. "Love? You think love can conquer all? It has torn people apart throughout history. But you have yet to understand," Ruth interjected, her heart pounding. "Love can heal the deepest wounds. It can rebuild what was broken." Thunder crashed, shaking their very foundation, and suddenly, the skies seemed to reflect the chaos below. The ground heaved as if torn between two forces. Eliab raised his arm, fingers pointed menacingly at Ruth. "Their defiance ends here. If you all wish to be swept away by this storm of delusion, I will ensure your ruin is swift and merciless. What you pray for will drown here today." As darkness seemed to engulf them, Ruth looked out at the faces around her. She saw desperation, determination intermingling. Could they really stand together against Eliab? A cry pierced the air, sharp and desperate. A little girl stood among the crowd, her voice cutting through the noise. "I just want to love," she shouted, her tears mingling with the raging rain. At that moment, silence reigned. Ruth felt the weight of collective heartbreak and fear coalesce in the charged atmosphere. The potential for change bore down like the storm above them, and for a brief flicker, hope ignited into a blazing fire. But as Eliab turned slowly, a sinister smile creeping across his face, a deep chill settled into Ruth's bones. "You think love can shield you from the truth?" he hissed, voice low and threatening. "You have no idea what darkness you are inviting." And as another bolt of lightning lit the sky, Ruth braced herself. The truth Eliab spoke resonated ominously in her core. What if love did indeed invite darkness? What if Eliab held secrets that could shatter their fragile unity? In that moment, as the storm reached its peak, she realized that the answers they sought might come at an unbearable cost. But would they dare to uncover the truth, regardless of the sacrifice it demanded? The wind screamed, bending trees and whipping rain into a furious dance. Ruth stood, trembling with uncertainty yet firm in her resolve. Eliab's laughter wrapped around her like a noose, tightening with every word he spoke. She could feel the pulse of fear in the crowd, like a heartbeat drumming against her own. For every whisper of support she received, there was a sharp intake of breath from those still loyal to Eliab. "Don't you see?" she implored, stepping closer to the people, letting the words spill out raw and urgent. "This storm isn't just weather, it's a reflection of what we've been living through. If we don't change, it will tear us apart." The rain fell heavier, drowning their murmurs, but Ruth pressed on. "We can choose love over fear. We can be stronger together than we've ever been apart." David's piercing eyes met hers, igniting a spark of courage. "Ruth is right. Love has power, it can turn this tide. This storm can be our rebirth if we let it." But Eliab interjected, his voice like thunder. "You speak of rebirth while I speak of reality. Love is fragile, and this world has no time for weakness. You'll drown in the waves of your own delusion." From the back of the crowd, an elderly man raised his gnarled hand. "We stay silent no longer. Fear has been our prison, but love is the key." His words rang out, echoing through the tempestuous night, pulling more voices into the chorus. Ruth felt a swell of energy. It surged through her veins like fire, igniting a momentum she never thought possible. "All of you, stand with me. Draw from the love we harbor in our hearts. Don't let Eliab's darkness extinguish our light." She moved closer to the edge of the throng, staring defiantly at Eliab, who was now visibly rattled. The ground beneath them rolled ominously, and flashes of light streaked across the sky. But that only heightened the urgency. Ruth could feel the people shifting forward, ready to embrace hope, even in the storm's fury. Then, with a crack of thunder that sent shivers down their spines, Eliab took a step back, his bravado faltering. "You want to know the truth?" he growled, each word dripping with menace. "What lies beneath your precious love? It can conquer nothing if it's built on a foundation of lies. Trust me, you will wish you never stirred this storm." His ear-splitting declaration echoed across the field, and a collective gasp rattled the crowd. Ruth's heart raced. What did he mean? What darkness did he hold that could unravel their fragile solidarity? She had fought to awaken the love within them, only to feel its fragility hanging by a thread. Thunder rolled, and Eliab's eyes glinted with a sinister anticipation. The truth is not just a light, it can also be a weapon. Are you prepared for the stakes of your choices? David stepped up beside Ruth, their shoulders touching, strength radiating from both of them. We welcome the truth, Eliab. We will not back down. If it tears us apart, then we will face it together. With that declaration, the crowd erupted. A wave of voices rose up, united and resolute, while Eliab's face twisted with fury. It was a moment of reckoning, the very air thickening with tension. Then came a chilling moment of silence, the eye of the storm before the whirlwind. Eliab's expression darkened further, lifting his gaze toward the sky as another flash of lightning illuminated his features. Underneath, it revealed not just anger. There was fear, an echo of something deeper that reverberated through his very being. In that split second, Ruth realized, maybe Eliab wasn't just a tyrant fueled by power. Perhaps he also carried a burden of truth that he wished to keep hidden. The flicker of realization ignited a question in her heart. What was the secret he feared so desperately? The storm howled again, and a cold shiver coursed through Ruth as she took a step toward Eliab. What is the price of the truth, Eliab? What will it take for us to find it? His eyes locked onto hers, and in that moment she understood they stood on the brink of something monumental. But would the truth, once unveiled, forge their unity or tear them further apart? The storm shrieked, whipping rain around them like a vengeful spirit, but Ruth held her ground, heart pounding fiercely in her chest. With every gust of wind, she felt the weight of Eliab's words pressing down on her. She had come too far to back down now. Enough of this fear, she cried, the storm roaring in agreement. You think love is weak? Love is strength. It's what binds us, even in adversity. Eliab's smirk faltered, that flicker of fear in his eyes betraying the fierce facade he tried so hard to uphold. The crowd moved closer, some drawn by her words, while others remained rooted in their doubts. Tell us your truth, Eliab, David shouted, standing shoulder to shoulder with Ruth. The moment felt electric, the air thick with anticipation. Eliab's voice rang out, laced with disdain. Truth? You want truth? Life isn't a fairy tale guided by love. You think I'm the only barrier to your dreams? The world is full of darkness that you are naive to believe kindness will drown. Ruth's heart raced, understanding dawned on her. Eliab was terrified of losing control, of losing the power he had clung to so fiercely. They were all scared, but maybe if they could force him to reveal his fears, they could illuminate a way through the darkness. Then let us face that darkness together, she shouted, her voice surging with conviction. Show us the lies you cling to. Face our fears, Eliab. We are here to fight not just for ourselves, but for the future. Thunder cracked and lightning flashed, illuminating the crowd's tentative expressions. The storm raged, but Ruth felt an inner calm washing over her. In that moment, she knew they stood on the precipice of change. The crowd surged toward Eliab, voices clamoring for truth and unity, until Eliab stumbled backward, losing his grip on power. You want darkness? Then prepare, he barked, taking a step back as the wind screamed in agreement. What are you hiding? Ruth pressed forward, eyes locked onto his. What is your truth? He hesitated, and in that pregnant silence she saw the struggle within him. A vulnerability that echoed her own. It was a moment of reckoning, a pause where everything hung in the balance. Enough. He was furious now, but something had shifted. You think you can choose love over the law? You are a foreigner. You are not one of us. No more excuses, Ruth shouted back. We're not asking for permission anymore. We're choosing connection. That was the turning point. Faces in the crowd shifted, doubt giving way to solidarity. The matron stepped forward, determination written on her face. We have suffered too long under the weight of division. We lose our children to fear. Perhaps it is time to break these chains. With thunder booming overhead, Eliab's stern facade cracked, and in that moment, something shifted in the air. He was the keeper of a heavy history, but also the harbinger of change. You don't understand the consequences, he shouted, but his voice wavered. Maybe you don't understand the power of love, Ruth countered softly, the rain soaking her through. The crowd's whispers grew louder, a swell of support washing over her. What do we risk, Eliab? David added, stepping forward. What are you so afraid of losing? In the heart of the storm, Eliab's resolve began to falter. You think love can change the world? Ruth took a step closer. We're willing to find out. Show us where the truth lies, Eliab, and we will face it together. An unexpected silence fell, and for the first time, uncertainty crossed Eliab's face. Truth is heavy. It wounds. Then let it wound us, Ruth proclaimed, the fire in her chest blazing fiercely now. Only then can we heal. The crowd exchanged glances, hope lifting the weight of judgment. Lightning cracked, and suddenly, a delicate hush fell over the assembly. It was as if nature itself paused, waiting. Eliab's gaze darted among the faces around him, and Ruth sensed in that moment that he might have the power to either ignite or extinguish their flame. Finally, he spoke, his voice low, tremors of vulnerability weaving through his words. You don't know what you're asking for. There are hidden truths buried so deep they could tear us apart. Ruth's breath caught in her throat. And what will it take to bring them to light? Eliab inhaled deeply, the overwhelming storm enveloping them, and for the first time, he seemed to realize the strength in vulnerability. It will bring the flood, but if you stand by your words, perhaps it's time we learn the truth together. With that declaration hanging in the air, the winds calmed just enough for Ruth to find her voice, steady and clear. Then let the storm cleanse us. Let it show us who we truly are, and perhaps we can emerge not just as a people but as a community. The crowd erupted into a roar, sensing the tide turning. Ruth's heart thrummed with hope, realizing they were taking that leap into the unknown together. As if sensing their determination, the clouds eased just a bit, and the rain softened, offering a breath of fresh air amidst the storm. Together, Ruth called out, "We will rise!" Cheers erupted, drowning out the echo of doubt. Eliab stood there, arms crossed, but even he seemed to soften, a flicker of realization dawning in his eyes. In that moment of unity, everything shifted. The storm continued to thrash against the world, but inside the hearts of Ruth and those around her, they were forging something unbreakable, a community born from love, stepping boldly toward the light of truth. This was only the beginning, but together, they had faced the storm and come out stronger, ready to weave a new narrative of hope and resilience. Ruth's heart soared at the thought. They would define their legacy, not by blood, but by the choices they made, standing as one people ready to weather whatever storm might come next. And as the last thunder faded, an unstoppable resolve blossomed within her. They were not just survivors, they were pioneers of a new dawn. What lay ahead was unknown, but they would face it head on, hand in hand, heart to heart. The world had changed, they had changed. And this was their moment to shine. Now, here's the thing: I need every single one of you to subscribe immediately to the channel. This is the moment to show your support and be part of this incredible community. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm and let others discover this journey. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this conclusion. And please share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see it. Don't wait even one more second. True fans understand the importance of lifting each other up. Let's do this together.